Did you ever wonder if the world you live in was shaped by choices made 1,000 years ago? What if the very way you think, learn, and even tell time started with people who lived in a world without electricity or the internet? This journey explores the medieval period, roughly from 500 CE to 1500 CE, revealing the astounding ways elders from this distant past left indelible marks on our present. Number 5. The shaping of our minds. Medieval universities and the scholarly quest. The idea of going to a university, sitting in a lecture hall, or debating complex ideas might seem utterly modern. Yet the very framework for higher education, the pursuit of knowledge, and even the way we organize subjects had its sturdy foundations laid by medieval scholars and students. Bologna, in Italy, for instance, became a beacon for legal studies in the 11th century. Students, often older men who had traveled great distances, formed universitas, a kind of guild, to protect their interests against townspeople and ensure they received quality teaching. Masters, themselves learned individuals, then formed their own guilds. This self-organization led to a powerful model for institutions dedicated to learning. The University of Paris, established around the same time, grew out of cathedral schools and focused heavily on theology, the queen of sciences during that era. Oxford, in England, followed suit, becoming another prominent center for intellectual inquiry, with its own unique customs and academic traditions emerging organically. The curriculum at these nascent universities followed a structured path, often referred to as the 7 liberal arts. It was divided into 2 main parts, the trivium and the quadrivium. The trivium focused on the arts of the word, grammar, the proper use of language, rhetoric, the art of persuasive speaking and writing, and logic, the science of correct reasoning. Mastering these provided the essential tools for any advanced study. After completing the trivium, students progressed to the quadrivium, which dealt with the arts of number and quantity. Arithmetic, the study of number in space. Geometry, the study of number in time. And music, the study of number in sound. These disciplines were not seen as separate silos, but as interconnected paths, leading to a deeper understanding of the universe. A student might spend years mastering these fundamental subjects before moving on to higher faculties like law, medicine, or theology. The method of teaching and learning itself was profoundly able, giving rise to what is known as Scholasticism. This was not a philosophy itself, but a method of critical thought born from the need to reconcile classical philosophy, particularly the works of Aristotle, with Christian theology. One of the pioneering figures of this approach was Peter Abelard, an influential theologian and philosopher in the 12th century. His work, Sic et Non, Yes and No, presented contradictory statements from various authorities on theological questions. Abelard did not offer direct answers, but instead demonstrated the need for rigorous logical analysis and disputation to arrive at truth. This method of posing a question, presenting arguments for and against, and then arriving at a reasoned conclusion, became the hallmark of university instruction. Later, in the 13th century, Thomas Aquinas, a Dominican friar, exemplified scholasticism in his monumental work, Summa Theologica. This massive treatise systematically addressed thousands of theological and philosophical questions, laying out objections, presenting his own arguments, and then offering responses to the objections. His meticulous and comprehensive approach to knowledge became a gold standard for academic inquiry. This systematic method of breaking down complex problems, using logic to navigate different viewpoints, and constructing coherent arguments still resonates in academic discourse today. Students learn to argue rigorously, to present evidence, and to defend their positions, skills that remain central to intellectual development. The universities were not just places of abstract thought. Robert Grosseteste, an English bishop and scholar in the 13th century, is often considered a pioneer in the scientific method. He emphasized the importance of observation, experimentation, and mathematical reasoning in understanding the natural world. He wrote on optics, astronomy, and the nature of light, using geometrical principles to explain phenomena. His student Roger Bacon, also a Franciscan friar, further advocated for empirical observation and experimental science. Bacon is credited with early ideas that foreshadowed modern scientific investigation, emphasizing the need for reproducible experiments and the application of mathematics to scientific problems. He explored topics ranging from lenses and mirrors to gunpowder, suggesting future technological possibilities through his writings. The establishment of these institutions meant the creation of an enduring intellectual class, a group of trained professionals who could serve rulers, the church, and society as educated administrators, lawyers, physicians, and theologians. They built vast libraries, painstakingly copying and preserving ancient texts and creating new knowledge. The debates and ideas that flourished within university walls shaped legal thought, medical practice, and theological understanding across Europe. They created a shared academic language, Latin, which allowed scholars from different regions to communicate and share ideas, fostering an international intellectual community. The practices developed in these medieval settings, such as lecturing, examinations, and the awarding of degrees, have echoed through centuries, forming the very backbone of academic life globally. The pursuit of knowledge, the systematic questioning of received wisdom, and the rigorous application of logic all began in earnest within the cloisters and lecture halls designed by these encyclical medieval elders. Number 4. The rule of law. How medieval justice still echoes. When disputes arise today, people often turn to courts, expecting a system of rules, procedures, and trained professionals to guide the process. This reliance on a structured legal framework is deeply rooted in the medieval past, where different legal traditions emerged and intertwined, forming the basis of our modern legal systems. Two major legal traditions, canon law and common law, developed significantly during this period, alongside the powerful revival of Roman law shaping justice for centuries to come. Canon law. The law of the Church governed vast swaths of medieval life. It regulated the sacraments, marriage, wills, oaths, and even crimes like heresy and blasphemy. Its influence extended far beyond the clergy, touching the lives of every individual. A crucial moment in its development came in the 12th century with Gratian, a monk and legal scholar in Bologna. He compiled and harmonized a vast collection of ecclesiastical decrees, papal pronouncements, and patristic writings into a systematic work known as the Decretum Gratiani, or simply Gratian's Decretum. This massive compilation, though never officially promulgated, became the standard textbook for studying canon law across Europe. It provided a coherent structure for an often disparate body of law, allowing for consistent interpretation and application. Church courts, with their own judges and procedures, handled cases under canon law, and their decisions often had significant social and economic consequences for families and communities. The principles of equity and fairness, so central to canon law, subtly influenced secular legal developments. At the same time, a powerful intellectual current was sweeping through continental Europe. The rediscovery and intense study of Roman law. The Corpus Juris Civilis, a compilation of Roman law codified by the Emperor Justinian I in the 6th century, had largely been lost or forgotten in the West for centuries. However, around the late 11th century, a complete manuscript of the Digest, a key part of the corpus, was rediscovered in Italy. This sparked an intellectual revolution. Scholars at Bologna, known as the glossators, meticulously studied these texts, adding glosses or marginal notes to explain difficult passages and reconcile inconsistencies. Irnerius, often regarded as the founder of the Bologna Law School, was a leading figure in this movement, teaching Roman law with a rigor previously unknown. His students and their successors, the commentators, then went further, writing extensive commentaries and developing legal principles based on Roman texts. This revival of Roman law, with its sophisticated concepts of property, contracts, and procedure, provided a highly rational and systematic legal framework that profoundly influenced the development of civil law traditions across much of Europe, from Germany to France and Spain. Across the English Channel, a distinct legal tradition was taking shape: the common law. Unlike the Roman law systems that built upon ancient codified texts, English common law evolved primarily through judicial decisions and customs. A pivotal figure in its development was King Henry II in the 12th century. He initiated reforms that centralized justice and created a system of royal courts, extending the king's justice throughout the realm. Henry II introduced the use of royal writs, formal written commands from the king that initiated legal proceedings. These writs provided a standardized way for people to bring their grievances before the king's judges, bypassing local feudal courts. Henry II also established the practice of sending royal judges on circuits, traveling across the country to hear cases. These itinerant justices applied a uniform set of laws and customs across different regions, gradually creating a common law for the entire kingdom rather than disparate local customs. Their decisions, recorded and consulted, began to form precedents that future judges would follow. This reliance on precedent, or stare decisis, became a defining characteristic of English common law. Two foundational legal texts emerged from this era: Ranulph de Glanville's treatise on the laws and customs of the realm of England, late 12th century, and Henry de Bracton's comprehensive on the laws and customs of England, mid-13th century. These works systematically describe the emerging common law, including the writ system, court procedures, and legal principles, serving as indispensable guides for generations of lawyers and judges. One of the most enduring contributions of medieval English justice was the development of the jury system. Its origins can be traced to Norman inquests, where a group of local men would swear an oath to provide information to royal officials over time. This evolved into two forms. The grand jury, or presenting jury, emerged to accuse individuals of crimes, presenting their findings to the royal courts. The petty jury, or trial jury, developed to hear evidence and determine guilt or innocence in both civil and criminal cases. While initially different from the modern jury, these early forms laid the groundwork for a system where ordinary citizens participated in judicial decisions, a cornerstone of many legal systems today. Specific courts also solidified their roles during this period. The Court of King's Bench heard cases involving the king's peace, including serious criminal matters. The Court of Common Pleas dealt with disputes between ordinary citizens, such as land disputes and contracts. The Exchequer Court handled financial matters related to the royal treasury. These distinct courts, each with its own jurisdiction and procedures, created a structured legal landscape. Lawyers, or sergeants at law, and later barristers and solicitors emerged as a professional class, trained in the intricacies of the law and serving as advocates for their clients. The very idea of legal education, professional advocacy, and distinct court jurisdictions, which are fundamental to our legal systems, were meticulously developed by these medieval elders and their students. Their complex systems of legal reasoning, their establishment of judicial precedents, and their procedures for resolving conflicts continue to inform the way we seek justice. Number 3. Stone giants and sky-high dreams. The vision of Mithi Bol Kartikex. The cathedrals, castles, and bridges that dot the European landscape today are not just old buildings, they are testaments to the audacious vision and extraordinary engineering prowess of medieval builders. From the solidity of Romanesque churches to the breathtaking heights of Gothic cathedrals, these structures represent a continuous evolution of architectural ambition, driven by master masons and their teams. They did not have modern cranes, steel beams, or even clear architectural drawings in the way we understand them today. Yet they created structures that have stood for centuries, defying gravity and weathering time. The early part of the medieval period, from roughly the 10th to the 12th centuries, saw the widespread adoption of the Romanesque style. This style was characterized by its massive, thick walls, round arches, sturdy piers, and relatively small windows. The weight of the stone vaults required immense support, leading to a sense of solemnity and strength. Churches like Durham Cathedral in England, with its impressive ribbed vaults in the nave showcase the innovative use of this new structural element. Ribbed vaults, where stone ribs form a skeletal framework that supports thinner panels of masonry, were a significant step forward from earlier barrel vaults, allowing for larger spans and reducing the overall weight. The builders of these Romanesque churches, often anonymous master masons, learned to work with immense quantities of stone, creating structures that felt like fortresses of faith, dark and cool inside, with light filtering through narrow openings. Then came the Gothic Revolution, beginning in the mid-12th century in northern France. This transformation was not just aesthetic. It was an engineering marvel that allowed cathedrals to soar to unprecedented heights, filling their interiors with light. The key innovations were the pointed arch, the ribbed vault, and the flying buttress. The pointed arch, unlike its round Romanesque predecessor, directed thrusts more vertically downwards, reducing the outward pressure on walls. This allowed for taller, narrower arches and vaults. The fully developed ribbed vault, often quadripartite or sexpartite, further refined the structural system, allowing for thinner walls and larger window openings. The most revolutionary innovation was the flying buttress. This external support system consists of an arch that springs from a wall and extends to a pier, transferring the outward thrust of the heavy stone vaults over the nave and aisles to the exterior piers. Without flying buttresses, the thin, tall walls of Gothic cathedrals would simply collapse under the immense weight of their roofs. Chartres Cathedral, in France, rebuilt extensively after a fire in the late 12th century, is an excellent example of this innovative use of flying buttresses, which allow its immense stained glass windows to fill the interior with dazzling light. These windows themselves were a form of artistic and engineering brilliance, composed of countless pieces of colored glass held together by lead cames, depicting biblical stories and saints for the largely illiterate population. The role of the master mason was central to these massive undertakings. He was not just a craftsman, but an architect, engineer, and project manager, all rolled into one. He understood geometry, statics, and the properties of stone. He designed the building, oversaw the quarrying and transport of vast quantities of stone, directed hundreds of skilled laborers and unskilled workers, and managed the complex logistics of building a structure that might take decades or even centuries to complete. Names like Villers de Honnecourt, a 13th century French master mason, whose sketchbook provides invaluable insights into medieval building practices, highlight the intellectual rigor behind these constructions. These master masons operated within a guild system, passing down knowledge and techniques through generations. Learning from experience and constantly innovating, the construction process was painstaking. Quarries were opened, and massive blocks of stone were cut and transported, often over long distances, using oxen, carts, and sometimes even boats. On site, scaffolding made from timber was erected, slowly rising with the building. Cranes, often powered by human treadmills, lifted heavy stones into place. Carpenters created intricate timber frameworks for roofs and temporary centering for arches and vaults. Blacksmiths forged tools and iron reinforcements. Every detail, from the carving of gargoyles that served as decorative rainspouts to the precise cutting of individual stones for a complex vault, required immense skill and coordination. Specific cathedrals stand as enduring monuments to this vision. Notre Dame de Paris, begun in the 12th century, was one of the earliest cathedrals to incorporate flying buttresses, albeit less developed ones than later examples touting the evolving nature of Gothic design. Canterbury Cathedral in England, with its long history of rebuilding after a fire, demonstrates a blend of Romanesque and Gothic elements. Its soaring choir and intricate crypt bearing witness to centuries of building. Salisbury Cathedral, built largely in a single architectural campaign, shapes the unified high English Gothic style. These buildings were not just places of worship. They were symbols of civic pride, economic power, and deep spiritual devotion, shaping the skyline of cities and towns for centuries. Beyond cathedrals, medieval engineers also built formidable castles, designed for defense with concentric walls, moats, and drawbridges, using principles of siege warfare and structural stability. They also constructed vital infrastructure like bridges. The Pont Saint-Benazet in Avignon, France, an impressive stone bridge from the 12th century, demonstrates the capacity to span wide rivers with multiple arches, a testament to their civil engineering capabilities. The enduring presence of these stone giants, often still in use today, reminds us of the profound and long-lasting legacy of medieval architects and engineers. Their visions, born from practical necessity and artistic ambition, continue to shape our landscapes and inspire awe. Number 2. The birth of our stories. Medieval literature and languages. The languages we speak today, and many of the fundamental forms of storytelling we enjoy, have their roots firmly planted in the medieval period. While Latin remained the language of scholarship and the church, a vibrant new world of literature began to emerge in the vernacular languages, the everyday tongues spoken by the people. This shift was profound, allowing stories to reach wider audiences and shaping the very grammar, vocabulary, and narrative structures of modern French, English, and Italian. In early medieval Europe, epic poetry flourished, often recounting tales of legendary heroes, battles, and the formation of nations. The Song of Roland, written in Old French around the 11th century, is a prime example. This epic poem tells the story of Charlemagne's knight Roland, his bravery, and his tragic death at the Battle of Roncesvalles. It embodies the chivalric ideals of loyalty, honor, and courage, and its verses resonated deeply with audiences, influencing later literary works and shaping the heroic ideal. Similarly, Beowulf, an Old English epic poem whose origins are debated but are certainly from the early medieval period, tells the story of a Geatish warrior battling monsters and dragons. Its intricate Old English verse, filled with kennings, compound metaphorical expressions like whale rode for the sea, and alliteration, paints a vivid picture of a heroic age, demonstrating the power and flexibility of the English language even in its earliest forms. As the medieval period progressed, particularly in the 12th century, a new genre of storytelling emerged: romance. This genre, distinct from epic poetry, often focused on themes of courtly love, chivalry, adventure, and magic. Chrétien de Troyes, a French poet active in the late 12th century, was a pivotal figure in the development of Arthurian romance. His works, such as Lancelot, the Knight of the Cart, and Yvain, the Knight of the Lion, popularized the legends of King Arthur, Queen Guinevere, Sir Lancelot, and the Knights of the Round Table. Chrétien explored the complexities of courtly love, a highly stylized and often illicit form of aristocratic love, and depicted knights embarking on quests not just for glory, but for personal honor and to win the favor of a lady. His narratives established many of the character archetypes and plot conventions that would define the romance genre for centuries, influencing European literature for generations. The 14th century saw the emergence of two literary giants who profoundly shaped their respective national languages and literary traditions: Dante Alighieri in Italy and Geoffrey Chaucer in England. Dante Alighieri, an Italian poet from Florence, wrote the Divine Comedy between approximately 1308 and his death in 1321. This epic poem, divided into three parts, Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso, describes Dante's allegorical journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven, guided by the Roman poet Virgil and his beloved Beatrice. What made the Divine Comedy revolutionary was its choice of language. Instead of Latin, Dante wrote in the Tuscan dialect of Italian, which through his masterful use became the standard for the modern Italian language. His vivid descriptions, complex theological and philosophical themes, and infinite use of terza rima, an interlocking three-line rhyme scheme, showcased the immense expressive power of the vernacular. Dante's work became a cornerstone of Italian literature, influencing countless writers and thinkers, and demonstrating that a vulgar tongue could be as profound and sophisticated as classical Latin. Across the Channel, Geoffrey Chaucer, an English poet and civil servant, similarly left an indelible mark on the English language with the Canterbury Tales. Written in Middle English during the late 14th century, this collection of stories is framed by a pilgrimage to Canterbury Cathedral. Chaucer's genius lay in his creation of a diverse cast of characters, from a noble knight and a devout parson to a bawdy miller and a worldly wife of Bath, each telling a tale reflecting their personality, social status, and moral outlook. The Canterbury Tales provides a vibrant snapshot of medieval English society, capturing its humor, its piety, and its foibles. Chaucer's use of Middle English, his rich vocabulary, his very poetic forms, and his keen observation of human nature helped to elevate English from a regional dialect to a language capable of great literary artistry. His work is often credited with helping to standardize English spelling and grammar, and many of his coinages and phrases still resonate in the language today. The creation of these literary masterpieces in vernacular languages was supported by the diligent work of scribes, who painstakingly copied manuscripts by hand in scriptoria, often within monastic institutions or university towns. Patronage from wealthy nobles and the church also played a crucial role in funding these literary endeavors, allowing writers to dedicate themselves to their craft. While oral traditions remained strong, the increasing availability of written texts meant that stories could be preserved and disseminated more widely, reaching larger audiences and influencing subsequent generations of writers. The emergence of these literary forms and the cultivation of vernacular languages by medieval elders provided the essential building blocks for the rich literary traditions that continue to evolve today. Their stories, characters, and linguistic innovations continue to echo in the books we read, the plays we watch, and the languages we speak every day. Number 1. Feeding the Future. Medieval Agricultural Revolution and the Enduring Landscape. The seemingly simple act of growing food underwent profound transformations in the medieval period, leading to an agricultural revolution that profoundly shaped the landscape, sustained a growing population, and laid foundations for later economic development. These innovations, often incremental and carried out by anonymous farmers, monastic orders, and local lords, had an immense and lasting impact on how people lived and how land was used for centuries. One of the most significant technological advancements was the adoption of the heavy plow, or carruca. Earlier plows were light, only scratching the surface of the soil, suitable for lighter, drier Mediterranean soils. The heavy plow with its iron coulter, a vertical knife to cut the sod, share to cut horizontally, and moldboard to turn the furrow, was much more effective at tilling the dense, heavy, and wet soils found in northern Europe. This powerful tool required more draft power, often a team of 8 oxen, or later horses. The invention of the padded horse collar, which rested on a horse's shoulders instead of its throat, allowed horses to pull heavy loads without choking, making them a more efficient and faster alternative to oxen for plowing and transport. The widespread use of horseshoes also protected hooves and improved traction. These innovations meant that more land could be brought under cultivation, and the soil could be worked more deeply and effectively, leading to higher yields. Hand in hand with the heavy plow came the widespread adoption of the three-field system of crop rotation. For centuries, European agriculture had largely relied on a two-field system, where half the land was planted with a crop and the other half lay fallow each year to recover its fertility. The three-field system was a revolutionary improvement. Land was divided into three sections, one planted with a winter crop, like wheat or rye, one with a spring crop, like oats, barley, peas, or beans, and the third left fallow. This system had multiple benefits. It increased the amount of cultivated land by 1/3, from 50% to 66%, in any given year. It diversified crops, providing a more varied and balanced diet. The leguminous plants like peas and beans helped to enrich the soil with nitrogen, reducing the need for lengthy fallow periods. This more efficient land use directly contributed to increased food production, which in turn supported a significant population boom across Europe during the High Middle Ages. Beyond the fields, medieval society also harnessed the power of natural forces through the widespread adoption of watermills and windmills. Watermills, though known in Roman times, became ubiquitous in the medieval landscape. They were primarily used for grinding grain into flour, a labor-intensive task when done by hand. But mills also powered other processes, sawing timber, fulling cloth, a process to clean and thicken wool, and even operating bellows for forges. Their widespread construction along rivers and streams reflects a sophisticated understanding of hydraulics and mechanical engineering. Windmills, adapted from the Middle East, became prevalent in flatter regions where water power was less accessible, such as parts of England and the Netherlands. These impressive wooden structures with their rotating sails provided another source of mechanical power, further reducing reliance on human or animal labor for industrial processes. Monastic orders played a particularly significant role in pioneering and disseminating these agricultural innovations. The Cistercians in particular established their monasteries in remote, often uncultivated areas, transforming wilderness into productive farmland. Their strict rule emphasized manual labor and self-sufficiency, leading them to become expert land managers, draining marshes, clearing forests, and implementing efficient farming practices. They were pioneers in sheep farming, wool production, and the development of water management systems. Benedictine monasteries, with their ancient traditions of self-sufficiency, also contributed significantly to agricultural development, acting as centers of innovation and knowledge transfer across the countryside. Their organized approach to land use served as a model for secular lords. The feudal system, while a social and political structure, also had a profound impact on agricultural organization and the enduring landscape. The characteristic open field system, common in much of northern Europe, involved vast fields divided into strips, farmed by individual peasant families but managed communally. This system meant that decisions about planting, harvesting, and fallowing were often made collectively by the village community. Common lands, such as pastures and woodlands, were also vital resources shared by the villagers. This communal organization, combined with the agricultural innovations, created a highly distinctive rural landscape of dispersed villages surrounded by open fields, a pattern that persisted for centuries and is still visible in some parts of Europe today. The steady improvements in agricultural output provided the caloric surplus necessary to support growing populations, sustain urbanization, and allow for a greater division of labor, laying the groundwork for the more complex economies that followed. These medieval elders, through their ingenuity in the fields and with their mills, literally fed the future,